What if I told you that the reason why your chords sound flat as a classical pianist is because you're not paying attention to certain things when you're playing chords on the piano? My name is Cliff Jones. I'm a classical pianist and piano coach for over 20 years. And one of the things that frustrates me so much is when I hear my own students or other classical pianists struggle with bringing out the melodic line when they're playing chords. In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do this, how to use certain type of tips, certain type of touch on the piano so that your chords will sound more fuller and you'll actually sound like a concert classical pianist. Now in this video here, I'm going to be using Franz Liszt Transcendental Étude number 9, the Ricordanza. There's a certain part of this section here where it says largamente molto espressivo cantando, right? And what that means is that you're playing large, it's a largamente tempo marking, meaning much slower, molto espressivo, meaning you're playing with a lot of expression, and cantando, meaning that your top line or your melodic line has to be in a singing manner. Now, when pianists see things like this, they automatically start playing like this. Right? They automatically jump right into learning the piece, right? But if you instead do this, if you decide to, okay, you know what this sounds like, but if you really decide to really break down using emotional storytelling what this section means to you, then when it comes down to playing it as a chord, as this section here with a whole bunch of chords, it will not sound flat to you. Now, if you look here on the screen, I wrote something called the COPET prompt. COPET stands for Composer-Oriented Piano Expression and Technique Method. It's my own method that I use to help pianists, serious classical pianists, really develop, improve, or rebuild their whole entire piano technique, and more importantly, their artistry with it through the means of emotional storytelling. So on the screen here, you see COPET prompt, and I'm gonna read it to you. It says, thinking about the time when Granny bought me my first piano, and then lessons 3 years later. I was 14 years old and I started taking lessons 3 years later. I remember when I first walked into my house and I saw the piano and I was completely blown away by the fact that my grandmother did this for me. Now, and I also wrote, but it was turbulent because people didn't understand my vision as a classical pianist. Now, in this whole entire section here, in these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 measures, I'm gonna break down all of that and what exactly it means to me, and I'm also going to show you exactly how I'm bringing out the melodic line and making my chords not sound flat but sound actually full as a classical pianist, right? So keeping that whole entire prompt in mind, we're in the key of D flat major, and we have this beautiful melody here that Liszt has. So, what exactly did I do here? Key thing is that I'm using my left pedal and the right pedal so that the other harmonies won't overshadow the main melody, right? Sorry about the drilling they're working here, but anyway. Now, when it comes to doing this, when you use the left pedal and the right pedal, your soft pedal with your right pedal, you get this type of tonation, this type of warmness, this type of amazingness. Listen closely. Right? And now, also simultaneously, me using this left soft pedal allows me to also put emphasis on the pinky because that's where the main melody is. I'm going 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 1, 2 and 3 and 1. All of this using this left pedal with my right pedal and then putting a lot of emphasis on the pinky while everything else is softer, which is I'm going to explain as well, allows me to bring out the melody, the top line, and also makes my chord sound fuller and not flat. Now, when you're doing things like this, you heard me just mention that you have to make sure that everything else is softer. Now, the way that you do this, before you try to enter the main melody, practice the harmonies, which is the resonant notes of the chord, by itself. Right here we have a pianissimo dynamic, so it goes 1 and 2. And if you look closely at my hands, I'm not going like this. I'm playing soft and subtle. I'm almost like I'm bouncing on the keys, right? So now what we're also talking about is the importance of touch. Especially when you have melodies like this, where you have where you have chords and you have a top line that you have to bring out. So you start off practicing like this, like you're bouncing. Everything is completely relaxed. Now, once you have this type of motion, now you bring in the rest of the melody. It goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 1. What is this? 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now, another thing, tying the story to it. Give you a recap. I wrote COPET prompt, composer-oriented piano expression and technique prompt. This is something that I write on a lot of my music, using my own method, right? COPET method. I wrote thinking about the time when Granny bought me the piano and in lessons 3 years later. That's the first part of the melody, right? So as I'm thinking that, I'm tying into one of my favorite pastimes, number one, by going back to remembering how amazing and how loved I felt, right? So now with me having that type of emotion and that type of story in my head, that also helps me to shape exactly how I'm going to bring out the melody amidst these wonderful chords here, right? And that also ties into what we're talking about, the touch of the piano. So when I'm doing this, I'm going 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. I'm not rushing, I'm taking my time. I might get a little bit faster here. And I'm slowing down to do a slight ritornando to go to this. 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. What is that chord? And 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 down. Right? Now, let me play that whole entire section again, because you got to really understand how I'm shaping everything by using my story, also using rubato, which means to push and pull the tempo, while keeping my story in mind. Watch how I do this. This time I'm not going to talk. I just want you to just listen. Now, here we go. It goes. 1. That's exactly how you bring out the touch, how you shape your melodic line, and so that your chords won't sound muddy, it won't sound empty, it won't sound hollow, right? So you can actually sound like a concert classical pianist. Now, if you read the second part of my prompt, I wrote, it was turbulent because people didn't understand the vision. I'll tell you something quickly about myself. Between the ages of 14 and 17 years old, when I got my first piano, and when I started taking lessons at 17, I was teaching myself how to play piano. And there were a lot of people who didn't believe in me and said a whole bunch of stuff about like, yo, you're not black because you play classical piano. You can imagine the turmoil, the sadness I felt that I'm doing something that I was called to do by God, And that's something that I genuinely love. And there were people, my own people that look like me and other people who don't look like me, right? That that were coming at me and saying, oh, you're not black because you're playing classical piano. Just imagine my turmoil, or put aside race, the fact that somebody was saying, oh, you're not good enough, you should be doing this, really, really broke me down in these 3 years. So that's why I wrote, it was turbulent because people didn't understand the vision. Now, because I use that as a story, now I'm gonna play the next section of the piece with my storytelling, and I'm gonna show you exactly how, as things get louder, I'm also telling my story without making the chords sound muddy. Let's jump into it. So now we went from D flat major to F major. Now we're getting louder. Reading this. Okay. Now, those are 1, 2, 3, 4 measures. Let's jump into this whole entire thing again. If you notice closely, I went from D flat major from E, and 2, and 1, and 2, and I'm slowing down to bring a new color, which is a new key, F major. I'm getting louder. I'm building. I'm building more. 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. As opposed to just going like this. 2 and 3 and 1 and no slight slow down or anything like that, just going from D flat major to F major. And 3 and 1 and 2, da ti da yum da ti dum. 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. Okay, that was okay. But the first way that I played this, it made the chords really sound full, even with me getting louder and getting a little bit faster and all those wonderful things that I was doing. I still was able to keep the same touch. I was still able to have the same clarity of the melodic line because of the fact that I was sticking to what I felt in my own story. It was turbulent for the next 3 years between the ages of 14 and 17 years old because a lot of people were making fun of the fact that I played classical piano. They didn't understand the vision. I remember vividly what I was going through as a pianist, as a human being, as a classical pianist, when it came to me playing my music. And I'm putting that in this whole entire section here, right? And when you have your storyline and you stick to that story, it makes everything easier to bring out. It makes your chords sound so much fuller. It makes your chords sound like you're an actual concert classical pianist instead of an amateur. Right? So if you are somebody who wants your chords to sound better, come up with some type of storyline, come up with your own, even if it's not your own story, your own personal story or story that you made up, right? And stick to it and watch exactly how you're able to shape your melodic lines. And just a recap of this whole entire section, of these 2 sections here. You first heard me start off with a pianissimo dynamic by using left pedal. Using the left pedal allows me to control the harmonics of the rest of the chord while also putting emphasis with my pinky or whatever other fingers I need to use to bring out the top line. Then as we got louder, we didn't just rush right into fortissimo. We gradually went into fortissimo, as well as we slightly picked up the speed. In these whole entire 2 sections, one very important thing that I used was using the importance of rubato to push and pull the tempo. When you mix rubato with more importantly, you have your storyline, you're using rubato, using a left pedal, if it's something really soft and beautiful and lyrical, and as things get louder, as long as you're not pushing the tempo and losing sight of your story, your chords are going to sound so much better as a classical pianist. Friends, my name is Cliff Jones. I'm a classical pianist and piano coach for over 20 years. If you're a pianist who practices consistently, if you're a classical pianist who practices consistently, but you notice that no matter what you're doing, your technique, your artistry is not getting better, the repertoire that you want to learn is just not happening, it's not getting better, I want you to head to the link in my description, and I want you to head to that link to apply to join my Cliff's Keys to Mastery online community through school. It's a place where I help serious classical pianists build and improve their piano technique, and more importantly, their artistry through the means of emotional storytelling using my own method called the COPET Method, which stands for the Composer-Oriented Piano Expression and Technique Method. Looking forward to seeing you there.